All right, guys. So my name is Addye Buckley-Burnell. I'm the Associate Director of Career Development in the University Career Center, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about the International Student Job Search. This is all part of our Graduate Student Workshop Series, and I really appreciate you all being here today. Again, if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box. And if anyone I'll answer all questions kind of toward the end, simply because I have a lot of information to cover and I know I want to be very respectful of your time. All right, so here we go. This is just some of the information we are going to cover today. Some of the things that we will make sure to hit on are the expectations in the US job market, visa restrictions, and so what is or is not allowed, preparation, how to make sure that we are prepared for a job search in the US and how to make sure we're applying to the right companies, the types of things you need to know when you're doing employer research, search options, networking, organization, follow-up, and staying positive. So as you can see here, we have a lot of information to cover. I'm going to try to get through this in 1 hour. For those who are just chiming in or those who may not be able to stay for the full time, rest assured this is being recorded and we will be sure to put this up on our YouTube channel for you to review at any point. All right. So when it comes to the job search, this is something that is not an easy thing really for anyone to navigate. However, I do know that international students tend to have a couple of additional obstacles that you may have to face or some barriers that you may have to get through. For that reason, we want to make sure that we're covering the basics of any job search, but also some of those specific things that you may face. Keep in mind that finding a job is a full-time job. It is not an easy process for really anyone. And given the current climate, our current pandemic that we're facing, it's really brought a lot of instability, a lot of, you know, confusion, concern for everyone involved. I do want to make sure to hit on this right away that there are still jobs out there. And the employers that we're talking to that have even been impacted by this current pandemic and may have frozen some of their hiring, they all know that things will turn around, hopefully soon. And because of that, most of them are really preparing to do more of a large scale hiring in the next few months. So please be aware that this may take some time, but there are still jobs out there and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The more time you invest in looking for a job and really diving in to make sure that you are doing this in a tailored, educated fashion, the better your chances are going to be. So know that spending time investing in a few positions, investing in a few applications is your better option. I would rather see you apply fully and targeted to 10 positions than to apply for 100 positions in a week. And the reason I say that is that if you really invest the time and energy into your applications, making sure they're complete, making sure that your documents are tailored, you are going to have a better chance of landing that interview, which is the big step. All right. So think about that as you're going through. Now, some of the expectations in the US job market, I like to talk about this because these are things that are not the case in every other country, all right? And so as I'm talking to you about this, you may be thinking, boy, that's something that is exactly like how I'm used to or I'm accustomed, or you might be thinking that is actually really crazy. I would never have expected that. So some of this you may know, others you won't. So for instance, ownership of the job search. In some parts of the world, there are people that will actually go out and find the jobs for you. You can hire agencies, you can hire individuals to do that. In the US, it is primarily up to you. There are scenarios where headhunting is a thing, but for most new graduates, that's not really a possibility. So realizing that this is going to be up to you to make the most of this process, it is up to you to advocate for yourself, and it will be up to you to make sure that you're taking the steps needed to find that job. There are plenty of people here to support you along the way. Our office happens to be one of them. The University Career Center is fully invested in helping you, but realize that at the end of the day, it is your job to find a job. Complete applications, cover letters, resumes, and CVs. All right, so resumes and CVs, depending on where you are in the world, they may be the same thing, they may be a little different. You're gonna need to know what's gonna be most appropriate for your industry. Now, I could talk to you for hours about how to write these documents, but we won't go into them for this session. But I will tell you that CVs are typically going to be what you will go to if you are looking at going in industries that are more research specific. If you're going into any kind of research work, if you're going to academia, or if you're looking to pursue further education, your CVs are going to be expanded documents that will have everything you've ever done, all of your publications, all of your research. If you were looking in more specific industry type positions, those are going to be typically your resumes, and those are going to be 1 to 2 pages long, very brief, to the point marketing pieces. So these documents look very different in the US depending on what you are looking to do, where other parts of the world, a CV will be used interchangeably. You will need to really customize these documents for the specific positions to which you're applying. And you'll also need to have cover letters for each as well. And cover letters are your way of telling your story. Also, in addition to these documents, you will have to have completed applications for every position that you apply to. And the applications will be housed at the actual organization's, typically their website, or their hiring pages. Now, these applications are legally binding documents. They will go into account of a lot of information that they're going to want to know. Everything from your name and information all the way through even they'll ask you for things like your TOEFL or your social security number. They'll ask you for every job that you've ever had, and these need to be completed. What that means is that you will not want to have any blank spots on that application. And if you need help in how to fill that out, that is something that you'll want to talk to us about. You are going to need 3 to 5 references for every position you apply to. Now, your references should be people who know you in a professional capacity. Usually that will be your faculty members, your advisors, anyone who has supervised you. So realize that you'll need 3 to 5 for every position to which you apply, for every graduate program to which you apply. And those are going to be given along with an application, but also during an interview, you will hand over a reference sheet to the people who are interviewing you. And so it's very important that these are people that know who you are and can attest to your ability. Be sure before you put them as a reference that you've asked them permission to do so. They need to know that they are a reference, and they need to be able to speak to your capacity for that specific role. So it does help if you give them a copy of your resume or your CV. It helps if you give them a heads up that everything is going on. It also helps if you give them a copy of the job postings to which they may be called upon, all right? So all things that you'll want to think about in the process, and be very cognizant about who you pick, because if they don't give you a good recommendation, it could cost you a position. The job search in the United States will typically involve multiple interviews. Usually the first interview is a screening interview, just to make sure that you are who you say you are, that you can do what the basic necessity of that job will be. When you apply for a job, the goal is to get that interview, all right? And then when you're in the interview, it's your goal to then sell yourself for that position in that organization. So your resume should test your ability to do the new job. Your interview should test your ability to do the job for that specific organization. So it's really important to understand the company culture that you can speak to. Also, to make sure that they could see you fitting in and what you have to offer them. And that may take 2 interviews, it may take 5. It all depends on the organization, and they can look very different. They will expect for you to respond promptly for everything. So if they send you an email or leave you a voicemail, it is customary to respond within 24 hours to a voicemail or an email. Make sure that you're doing prompt responses, that you're writing professional style interviews, because they will be judging you on your actual communication skills here. And that you are on time, meaning typically 5 minutes early for all meetings with the individuals. You'll need a firm handshake. Now, one of the things that I hope comes from this pandemic is that people will stop shaking hands as much. However, traditionally in the US job market, you will need a firm handshake. A firm handshake will be a web-to-web handshake. So the web of your thumb and finger meeting the web of their thumb and finger, 2 shakes, and then release, all right? So not bone crushing, but also not weak or floppy, all right? It takes some practice. And when you're shaking hands, you'll always want to stand up, have eye contact with the individual, shake hands, and release. Firm handshakes will happen during multiple steps of the actual application process and during an interview. Eye contact is something that is very much a part of the US culture. It implies respect, it implies trustworthiness. And if you are not making eye contact, it can be seen as a sign of disrespect. Now, I realize that that is not a cultural norm in many other areas of the world. And so just be aware that that is something that is typically a conflict with cultural norms. Being honest and highlighting your skills without being pretentious is also a norm. Your job search is really about you selling your abilities to a new employer. Now, being honest to those abilities, so not taking credit for someone else's work, is important, but it also is important that you're going to be able to speak to what you're capable of. For most students I speak to, this is incredibly uncomfortable. Being boisterous or talking highly of oneself is not typically a norm in the US or anywhere in the world. So during the job search, it may feel a little strange, and I am aware of that, but just know that that is something that will be expected of you in the process. Stay professional. Make sure that you are staying professional, and hopefully the people who are interviewing you are as well. And not divulging information that they're not able to ask you about is also important. So if they don't ask you where you're from, you don't have to divulge that. If they don't ask you about things like, they're not allowed to ask you about things like religion. They're not allowed to ask you about marital status, disabilities. There's a whole list of things they're not allowed to ask you about. So try not to bring those things up in context to the interview. Stay professional, speak to only your abilities, and leave your personal life out of things. Time, realize that this is a very timely process. It takes time to find a job. It takes time to get through the interview process. So patience is important. It is time consuming as well. So one application may take you hours or even a day or two to complete. The application, the resumes, the cover letters take very much time to create. The application process may also take quite a bit of time. And so right now, finding a job is averaging people 6 months. We do not know the average right now with the pandemic going on, but on average, in a typical situation, it takes about 6 months to find a job. The application process from when you submit an application to when you get hired will fully depend on the industry and the type of company you're applying. If it is the federal government, that could take upwards of a year depending on security clearances. For academia, typically takes between 2 and 3 months between the time that you submit an application to when you get actually starting or hired on. For other areas, it may just be a couple weeks. And so this process can be very time intensive, so be prepared for that. And then also know that you need to follow up. It is up to you to make sure that they know that you're interested, and following up is key for that. So these are just some of the things that are commonly confused in the US job market because they are not norms in other places. So I want you to know about that going into this. Now, knowing what you are legally able to do is going to be part of the game. So I hope that most of you are familiar with CPT and OPT. If not, I've done a brief description here. I also want you to know that this link here will actually bring you to a handout that is on our website that goes over these details as well, so that you have something to refer to if needed. Now, your CPT is your curricular practical training. This is typically something that you will do during your academic life. It is your opportunity to work in the United States for pay, if it is allowed, for pay, based off of your program and to fulfill an internship requirement. So if you're in a program that requires you to fill an internship, this is your opportunity to do that, and it can be paid. Typically, that is going to be a 20-hour-a-week type position. It needs to be specific to your program, and it needs to be approved by your advisors in the Office of International Programs. Before you can apply to do this, before you do anything with this, you will need to sit in on a workshop that is housed by the Office of International Programs to understand the ins and outs and how to go about this. This is also what you need in order to complete a co-op, and that may extend into your OPT as well. OPT is typically done after you graduate. However, there are situations in where this will be done during your actual academic life. This is going to be working full-time for a full year. So as an F1 visa student, You are eligible to work in the United States for a full year after you graduate if you are granted OPT, optional practical training. This is done through the US government, and it needs to be applied between 90 and 100 days before you graduate, and it needs to be granted in order for you to actually land an OPT position. Typically, these are paid. They will need to be in industry. And these are things that can be done while you're a student, but typically not. If you are in the STEM fields, you have the opportunity to apply for what's called a STEM extension. What that means is that if you are in the science, technology, engineering, or math fields, and you are granted a STEM extension, you can extend your OPT for 2 additional years, which means that you could be here for 3 full years without any kind of sponsorship, which is a huge benefit, all right? So for CPT and OPT, your employers do not have to do anything special for you to work for them. Now, once you have gotten past this OPT, typically you're gonna wanna get an H-1B visa, and that is a work visa. That is something that is part of a lottery system. So if you are working for an employer with your OPT, it does benefit you for them to apply for your H-1B visa to be put into the lottery system. They're granted in February. There's a limited number, nothing is guaranteed, but it does benefit you for this because this means that you can work for an additional 3 years in the United States. Now, this does have a cost to your employer. There's paperwork, and it's typically around about $1,200 or more to go through this. But it is something that allows for you to work in the US for 3 years and can be extended, eligible for extension 2 more times. All right. So this is not a citizenship, although many people will go for citizenship while they're on an H-1B visa. It is an opportunity, though, to get real world work experience in the US. All right. So that's a basic distinction. When it comes to all of this, your employers may have no clue what any of this means. And so you need to know as much as you can about this to inform your employers. For this reason too, we do encourage you to look for employers that have tried to or have successfully sponsored H-1B visas in the past in order to target your search to these employers going forward, and I'll show you how to do that today. But all of this is important for you to be aware of. You will need to talk to international programs for about that CPT and OPT, and they will have to be part of that process for that application going forward. All right, so when it comes to the rest of this fun stuff, you are going to want to know what to look for when it comes to actually going into the actual job search. One of the things that you need to know going into it is, what is the type of position I can actually apply to with my degree? And that will also be guaranteed under that OPT, CPT, H1B visa element. Now, that is an important piece because your jobs need to be related to what you've studied. You can't have studied, education and then go into an engineering position when you graduate. That's not going to work how this system has been designed. So know that going into things. You need to know the related careers. So you can look up job titles in related careers using great sources like ONET and Occupational Outlook Handbook. Now, both of those are linked on the University Career Center's website. If you go to the student page of career.auburn.edu, you will see under the Explore Careers 2 links on the right-hand side of the page that say ONET and Occupational Outlook Handbook. And that's a great place for you to get some ideas of job titles or related careers. You also can look at what can I do with this major in that same area of the website that will show you, based off of your major, what types of career fields are commonly associated and the types of employers that hire for that. Helpful resources so that you can expand your net pretty wide. Those will also talk to you about the requirements for those types of roles. The desired requirements will typically be found in the actual job postings, but they will also tell you things like growth rate expectation and salary information. Now realize that every part of the United States looks very different about cost of living and salary. So $50,000 in Auburn looks very different than $50,000 in New York City. So you will want to understand how the salaries you're being offered will translate to your standard of living in any state. And there's some great resources on our website to help you with that. You also want to look at things like professional organizations. I hope that you have all taken advantage of those opportunities since you've been at Auburn. But if you haven't, this is a great time to join up, because those are going to be sources of job postings, networking opportunities, and also give you an opportunity to go to conferences or even virtual conferences that will be really beneficial for you. So you want to know all this stuff before you start looking so that you're not wasting your time with too narrow of a search. You want to have a few different elements to look for so that you can really optimize that time and have as many opportunities to look at as possible. Now, doing employer research is really an important element of the search. Just because someone wants to hire you does not mean you want to work there. And I'm going to repeat that because it is a very important piece. Just because someone is willing to hire you does not mean you want to work there. One of the things that I think is very interesting right now that I would encourage you to pay attention to is every organization and company is reacting to this pandemic very differently. In a global society, it is important that our leaders are being very cognizant and very knowledgeable about what is happening around the world and how that is going to impact their workforce in addition to their customers. So please, please, please pay attention to how the leaders of the organizations that you are applying to are handling the situation, and if it's an organization that you want to be a part of based on that. All right, so pay attention to things like that. Pay attention to growth rate expectations. Pay attention to the competitors of the organizations that you're looking at. Now, these are some of the websites that you can use to start your search. I'm going to show you 3 of them today with Handshake, Careershift, and Going Global. But know that every company or organization has a website, just about everyone does, that you can look at job postings on. If you're going to academia, hireatjobs.com is a great place to look, as is the Chronicle. And then, of course, looking at some of your more specific or networking aspects like LinkedIn to network into positions, or glassdoor.com to find out reviews of organizations can be very helpful in your search. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use Handshake, Careershift, and Going Global in your search. And I think you're going to find some of the tools that they have to be incredibly helpful for you right now. Let me switch screens again. All right. Okay, so this right here is going to be Handshake. And you can go to Handshake by going to career.auburn.edu. You then will click down here to Handshake. Using your Auburn your Auburn credentials, so your username and password, you will log into Handshake. Everyone already has a Handshake account, so it's very easy, not difficult to find at all. Now with Handshake, there are many, many great opportunities here. You can see events that are going on, including some of the virtual information sessions that a lot of employers are hosting right now. So take a look at that. It may be incredibly beneficial for you to see. You also will see, once we get back to campus, people who will be attending our career fairs, people who will attend our employer connections breakfast, and then of course our job posts. Now, based on the job postings, you can of course search this like you would any other job posting database. But the nice thing is with Handshake is that they give you a few additional opportunities to search as well. So once you filled out the little profile, you will have all of these different criteria that you may want to see. So recommended based off of your activity, jobs that are different resources suggested by our office. You'll see different postings that are popular for your major, expiring soon. All right, based off whatever industry you've indicated interest in, it will show you that. Now, right now, for some reason, it's not showing me. Right now it's not scrolling any further, but usually it will scroll further and it will narrow down additional pieces. Things like jobs that involve travel, jobs in cities with popular nightlife, jobs in organizations that are deemed exciting to work for. So there's different kind of non-traditional job search aspects here. The other nice one on here, it does let you filter in any way you like, but it will also have you do searches based off of different criteria. If they've indicated that they accept OPT or CPT, you can include that as a filter. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Just because an organization doesn't click that box does not mean that they will not accept it. And so I kind of say use that, but also try doing a search without it to see if there are additional aspects to explore as well. You'll see functions of the job, specific majors, all sorts of different pieces that you can look for. And you'll see we have over 11,000 jobs in the system right now. Many of them are posted in the last week. So again, you will still see positions in here that have been posted recently. If you go to the student piece, this can be a great way for you to see where other students end up going based off of their major. Now, some of these are Auburn students, and in fact, you can narrow it to just Auburn students if you'd like, or you can see students from every Handshake campus. And this gives you a chance to see if you have when you include your specific major, say psychology here, you can see where psychology majors from all around the country, what they're doing. You can see where they're working. You can see other places they have worked or what types of graduate programs they've pursued after. This is just a great way for you to get an idea of what other people have done with the same type of education you're achieving. You also can, of course, message them in the system, and it's a nice, safe way for you to ask questions and get advice. Now, based on this, there's all sorts of different criteria you can do, including searching for people who have maybe worked at organizations that you're hoping to work for. And so simply by clicking here, you can see other people who may be similar in age to you that have worked there that you could reach out to. So great opportunity for networking and expanding opportunities by knowing additional jobs or employers that you could target. Now, the best part about Handshake, specifically for your situation right now, it's going to be looking in the Career Center tab and going to Resources. I'll show you too. This is also how you can make appointments. You can go to the Appointment tab, but go to Resources and you'll see a variety of resources to look for. The first resource I'm going to show you is Going Global. Going Global is a great way to start looking into positions at organizations anywhere in the world. Let me go back here then. I tried to click on these earlier just to make sure I had them pulled up, but it looks like I got timed out of Going Global. Now, Going Global, if you're going to be graduating soon, it may not be a bad idea for you to just make an account in Going Global. You can make an account however you would like to with any email address. But if not, you can log in through our system anytime. This will give you career guides for popular places around the world. All right, so if you're looking to move to another country or maybe looking to work in Canada, which many people choose to do, this will just give you information about visa requirements in Canada, what the job search might look like, hiring companies, financial and cultural information that you should know about. You also can actually do a search for a job in Canada here. It will show you some of the more popular cities around the world. All right, same information, visa, embassy, all that kind of fun stuff. And these are created by people who do career counseling or similar related elements in those countries. And so it's not me doing the research on it. It's somebody in that country that's immersed and knows ins and outs of the job search. You can also use this in anywhere around the country. So our bigger cities, you can get cultural information, job search sites, all that fun stuff that you'll need to know. Now, the really fun part here is that if you're looking by city, it will have it listed here. You see here H1B Visa companies, or you can also do a search here. If you're pretty open to where you go, you can look here by titles, company name, or cities to do a search for people who have tried to sponsor people who are like you. So I'm just going to put accounting in here. I'm going to say anywhere in the world, or anywhere in the United States, I should say. And what this is going to do is show you people who have applied for the H-1B visa for employees of that organization. You will see the title for the position, the occupation, the company information, where they are, what they were looking to hire that person at. When you click on the actual company name, you can see how many visa applications they have submitted. All right. Now they aren't necessarily all accepted, but you can see how many they've submitted. So this one, Pocket Gems, you may not have ever heard of the organization, but you can see that they have applied for 119 visas, which means that they are going to be more likely to hire somebody who could potentially need to be sponsored in the future because they've done it already. It's not a new concept to them. They understand that process. And so this is a great way for you to see, this is an organization I could potentially work for. Let me go to either their website or do a search about them to explore them further to know if this is a place I may want to work. So it's a great way to target your searches. And again, you can do this by occupation, by city, and so forth. Some of them may have fewer. All right, so this one only applied for 2, but you can see exactly what those positions are. All right, so helpful for you to see, helpful for that target. Now in Handshake as well, you're going to see Careershift. Now Careershift is my favorite career exploration sites. This is a chance for you to explore. Really, you can manage your entire job search here. So for you, I'd encourage you to play with going global, but Careershift is also a really great place for you to kind of get some additional information. Now, Careershift is a grabber site, so it's going to scour the internet, anything that is not password protected, and show you those postings in real time. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to use this, and I'm going to show you 2 new features on it that if you've even looked at our tutorial, you will not have seen because they've just added these. So it's really exciting. So one of them, as you see here, is when you log into Careershift, you'll be able to set up an account using whatever login information you wish. This will stay with you. But you will see they've actually created a database in here to show you, if you do a company search, you can see where they are and how they're handling that COVID-19 information. So again, I want you to pay close attention to that. You're also going to see that we now have an H1B Visa sponsorship job search option. So I'm going to show you how to use that in a minute. They've also expanded the countries that they are listing. Experience level is also an option, so you can actually filter positions by your experience level. And you can drag and drop into their organization system and so on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Let's try it out. All right, so when you see Careershift, you're going to see your organizing windows over here, some great opportunities here. Now you can do a job search in here very easily with whatever criteria you're looking for. So let's just put in here, top one on here, counselor. I am looking really anywhere, so I'm going to keep that open. Let me do my advanced search. I know that I want to work for an organization that has sponsored in the past, and so this will let me do that. Now I can just look at sponsoring companies here, or I can do it within the criteria that I'm looking at. I know I want to do a full-time position, and I would like it to be more entry level. No results found. Now if I put in maybe a different title, keyword search again, I might have a better option. All right, so these are entry-level positions that are related to engineering that are in companies that they have processed H-1B visas for. So it looks like Soft Sages is a interesting one, and they're in different locations around the country. For every job posting, it will send you directly to where that position was posted, and then you'll apply through that system. So nothing exciting there, just apply through whatever system they use. However, you also have the opportunity to find contacts in that organization. And this is part of the contact search within Careershift. Contact search is great because it combines efforts of things like LinkedIn and Google searches to find actual individuals who work in organizations. Now, I just went from a job posting to find contacts. However, you can find contacts in a variety of ways by looking at industries, all sorts of different pieces. There's 166 contacts in Careershift that work for Soft Sages. Now, this is a long shot, but let's see. Maybe one of them attended Auburn. Let's take a look. Nope, didn't attend Auburn. But if I said I would like to see where Auburn graduates end up that are working in, let's see, in consulting, I can do a search here and look at the 401 contacts I just found. Now I have their name, I have their title, I have where they worked, where they're located, I have an email and a phone number. So these are people who went to Auburn that you already have that connection to, that you could actually reach out to get advice and information, and that's called informational interviewing. We're going to talk later about networking, and this is the ideal way of finding contacts to begin networking for. So take a look at this. You can save them as well. Like I mentioned before, you can save anything over here, and you can do lots of fun stuff. So a great option for you guys in doing your search would be to go to Going Global or go here, whichever, find companies that you may want to target. You could then, if I have that company name, all right, here we go. If I have the company name and I have this information, sorry, I'm behind a few things here. There you go. And I said, I'm curious if there are any Auburn graduates at that company that I know hires H-1B visas, and you can do a search that way too. All right, so again, there's just a lot of cool things you can do on here. I encourage you to play with both of these resources because you could do really your entire search using just them. All right, now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Hopefully all this is making sense right now. Okay, so once you have gotten to that point where you have exhausted all of your options as far as doing some employer research and using these as a way to actually find companies to target your search, you want to know, of course, if they're good, ethical companies. And these are the types of things you want to know about them in order to know if you might want to spend your time applying. Because again, that application process can be very time consuming. So what is the company culture like? Do they promote from within? Is it profitable? How are they handling this current culture? What is the public opinion, and have they sponsored in the past? These can help you determine if this is a company you may enjoy working for. Then, of course, determining if you want to relocate. Just like you don't want to work in any company that just wants to hire you, you also may not want to live in any city that just has a position available. So know the stuff going into it. For most of you who are coming from another country, I hope you did some of this research before you came here to Auburn. If not, you may have been a little surprised by some elements, and that's stuff that you just need to go into understanding, because I don't want you to spend the time or money relocating and then being miserable where you are. I want you to be happy in your next spot. So know this stuff before you go too far. Now, for every position to which you're applying, you're going to have resumes and CVs or cover letters that are tailored to the position. So that means that you need to spend time scouring those job postings to determine what skills you need to highlight. What do you want to include? You'll need 3 to 5 references for every position. Keep it updated, keep them informed. Ask permission. You'll want a professional email address and voicemail. Now you can use your Auburn, that's completely fine, or Gmail, just make sure it's typically your name. And your voicemail should be set up as well. The biggest issue I'm hearing with voicemails is that people are not realizing when their voicemails are full or if they haven't been set up. So please make sure that you're checking on that and that you have a voicemail set up for you. A clean online presence. Consider an online portfolio. I'm a big proponent of the ePortfolio project. I think there's a lot that can be said in a portfolio that doesn't necessarily come across in an application or a resume. So look for ways of demonstrating your abilities, and portfolios are great ways to do that. And then you can include those links on your resumes and cover letters. And then you're going to need thank you cards. So this is all stuff that you need in order to start actually applying. Now, some of the things that international students will talk to me about are, how do they go about asking the questions or answering the questions that may come up? How a question is asked will typically depend, or will determine how you should answer it. And so one of the most common confusing questions that is asked during this process is on an application. They will typically ask on an application something pertaining to work authorization. Now, sometimes that is phrased as, are you authorized to work in the United States? It may also be phrased as, are you authorized to work in the United States without any restrictions? Right? And so those two questions have distinctly different answers if you are an F1 student using OPT or CPT or looking for H1B sponsorship. You do have restrictions, but you are authorized, all right? So, excuse me, pardon me. So if it just says, are you authorized to work in the United States? You can say, yes, I am authorized to work in the United States. However, if it says without restriction, you may have to say no, but, all right? So here is some ways that you can phrase this, whether it be in an interview, whether you are networking, or whether it be on an application. So if they ask you, are you eligible to work in the United States? Yes, I am eligible to work in the United States for this much time. And with additional paperwork, I can continue to be of service to your company. Then you want to highlight why you are going to be of interest, all right? So as a global student, I bring these skill sets and these experiences, and I particularly appreciate your company's diverse workforce. So don't just simply state your answer, you're marketing yourself every step of the way. So state your answer and then show why they should be interested in submitting that extra paperwork. Where are you from? All right, now it's entirely up to you on how you answer this because they're not allowed to ask you, are you an international student? Instead, they may just say, where are you from? How long have you been in the US? That kind of thing. So it's up to you. But if you want to be open to this, saying, I'm a global student, you could say international, you can say global. I kind of like the phrase global because it shows a more of a perspective, a mindset that can be incredibly beneficial. So, and I studied at Auburn University for this many years. Showing that you studied in the US will make sure that the employer understands that you have been submersed in the culture, you have been educated here, so they'll have some context to what that looks like. It just gives them a little bit of a frame of reference in which to judge your candidacy. You can then talk about, again, what being a global student has taught you. So this experience mixed with my experiences abroad and my unique perspective. And then maybe ask them a question. Have you ever traveled to this area of the country or of the world? That is a great way to bring them into the discussion, and maybe it'll give you a chance to showcase why that's incredibly beneficial for them. So just think about how you might answer those. You know, if they ask you things about sponsorship and they say, I'm not really sure if our company is willing to sponsor. Great, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty of not knowing. I'm happy to discuss that process. Again, it's up to you to be able to advocate for yourself. So know the ins and outs, know what is involved with that, because you need to be able to talk to them about that and being knowledgeable. Because if you don't know and they don't know, you're kind of leaving it on their step to figure it out. And the better option for you would be, I'm happy to fill in those blanks of information or connect you with someone who can. So saying something along the lines of, appreciate that information. I'm happy to discuss this process of sponsorship with you further. Due to my OPT or optional practical training, you will not need to do anything additional for me to work at your organization for 12 months, or for some of you for 36 months. Once you see how I can benefit you, once I've proven myself to you, we can discuss the process of sponsorship, and I'm happy to help connect you with an immigration lawyer in the area. That sounds a whole lot better than, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know anything about it. So the more knowledgeable you come across, the more you show them that you are going to prove your ability, the better your chances will be. So getting in front of them is going to be the key to that. And oftentimes that doesn't happen until your actual interview, which is why I encourage you guys to really take advantage of networking opportunities as much as you can. Now, those can happen virtually. There's a lot of virtual career fairs out there as well. Speaking to your friends and families right now, your professors, your advisors, great ways to get to know employers. Now, I do encourage you though, right now especially, to start looking for additional ways to find people. And that's where things like Careershift can really come in handy to find professionals that you could start talking to now. called informational interviewing, and it's a great way to kind of meet with someone before you land an interview. Now, there are, of course, ways to do that. Here are some online options. In a typical situation, I encourage you to volunteer places as well. Always beneficial. But when it comes to networking, realize you're not asking for a job or an internship. You're asking for advice or information. So contacting an individual and saying, hey, I'm a student at Auburn University. I'm about to enter the workforce. I'd love some advice or information about how you got started. Even better if it was also a global student that you're talking to, all right? So that you can get some real candid advice. Would you be willing to meet with me over Zoom? You all have free access to Zoom or FaceTime, whatever you want. Ask for information and advice, be respectful of their time, let them do the talking. We have some great worksheets on our website that show you what types of questions you may want to ask, and then also how to go about setting this up. We also have a tutorial on that on our YouTube channel, so look for that as well. So how to find people and then what to do once you have. After you speak with somebody, thank them for their time and ask them if there's anyone else they know that also might be willing to talk to you. It's a great way of expanding your network. Follow up with a thank you note. Follow up with an email, letting them know how much you appreciate their time, and then reciprocation. If you see something that would be willing to help or might be helpful for them, let them know. If you know somebody who would be a good person for them to talk to about something that they were discussing, connect them. The more you let them talk, the more likely they are to remember you. So keep that in mind when you're networking. You're going to want to utilize all of your options, and there's a lot of options out there. Now, when it comes to these options, it is going to really depend on your current situation. But advertised jobs are a great opportunity. If you are looking for a job in the U.S. government, that is going to be on USA Jobs. I'm sorry, it says .com. It's supposed to be .gov. I apologize for that. Some of the sites will be specific for your industries, but if, for instance, hireajobs.com is great for academia. I will tell you some of the most common employers for H-1B visa sponsorship are going to be in academia and medical centers. And so look for those if you're interested. You're going to want to look at networking your professional organizations. Their conferences are great. They always have a job board as well. Job fairs, right now, nobody's having in-person job fairs, but there's a lot of virtual ones out there. So take a look and take advantage. Stay organized. This process can take a very long time. So for that reason, you're going to want to keep organized in the process. It may be a situation where you're applying for 5 positions in the same organization, and that's okay. But if they call you up for an interview, you need to be able to know what it was that you sent and what the positions were. So track all of this. Once you've applied for a job, I would encourage you to either save it as a PDF or print it off, because oftentimes those job descriptions go away after you have applied or after the job is closed. And so you will need to reflect on that. Keep all of your company research. If you are somebody who uses spreadsheets or online digital files, great, do it that way. If you're somebody who uses paper files, great, do it that way. But you'll want to track the positions to which you're applying, when you have contacted them, when you have followed up, and keep record of all of your dates so that you can keep all of this organized. Have you sent thank you notes? Who did you speak to? All of that is important. Now, that element of following up is really ideal. When you apply for a job, you're going to submit an application. You'll have a PDF of your cover letter and your resume for every job you apply to, and any other supporting documents you need, which may be a transcript, maybe references, whatever it is they're asking for. Make sure that you're submitting a full, complete application and application packet. For all of those paper elements, you're going to do those in PDF files so that you know how they look. After you submitted everything, I would encourage you to contact HR for that organization to make sure it all was received. They can oftentimes intercept if you may have submitted 2 copies of your resume instead of a cover letter. That's the type of thing that is a common mistake that could cost you a position. After you've submitted everything, give it a few weeks and then call the organization, typically the department or the office, and just restate your interest. You can call or email, just simply saying, I've already applied for the position. Just wanted to restate my interest in your organization, and I would love to have the opportunity to talk to you about this position further. Don't ask for an interview. Don't ask if they've hired anyone. Just restate your interest. Now you're going to do that for the positions. You're also going to do that with your after and interviews, all right? You're going to send thank you notes to everyone who helps you along the way. You're going to stay in contact with them, traditionally 3 times a year. And then you're also going to follow up after interviews to restate interest after the closing date. Now, follow up is very important, but you don't want to be pestering. So be respectful of time. Following up once after you apply and once after an interview is appropriate. Restate interest, inquire about their hiring timeline, and thanking them for their time. That's the idea. You don't want to do this every week. That will just get annoying. But if you do it every, at least 2 times, you're usually good to go. Don't get discouraged. Again, this is something that is incredibly time consuming. You may go 3 months without speaking to an individual. So don't get discouraged, and make sure that you are staying motivated and have a support system in place. Don't do only job search. You want to do other things too, but understand the timeline and what's expected in your industry. Be proactive, reach out to people, set up informational interviews, and rely on your support system when things don't go the way that you would like them to go. Realize that just because you didn't get hired doesn't mean it's an attack on you. Right now, there's just a lot of people applying for the same position with varying levels of experience. And so it's not necessarily saying that you were a bad applicant. It's just simply stating that one other person may have been more qualified at that time, and that's okay. That shouldn't stop you from applying for that same organization in the future. All right, so now I've got lots of information out there. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share now, and I want to know the questions that you guys have. All right, would the OPT job get you a job here on campus after graduating with a master's degree? Tends to be, yes. Very common for people to get jobs on campus with an OPT. OPT can be done anywhere as long as the position is related to the actual job or the degree in which you have earned. Now, I can't say just because you are able to get an OPT does not necessarily mean that you will, but I will say that you are definitely able to do OPT at Auburn's campus. All right, what do people need to know about recent immigration restrictions if they are presently waiting on their OPT? Will this affect H1B? Very possible. Right now, because everything is in shutdown, I expect everything to be moving slower. And the current climate for immigration is definitely something that many people are concerned about. So I can't tell you how it will, but I can assure you that it will likely impact H1B in the future. That being said, certain industries have traditionally hired or been granted H1B visas more often than others, specifically in more technological fields. And those I would assume would be less impacted by this because the talent is still needed and we can't produce enough of that in the United States. But I would be amiss to tell you that it will not impact anything when I am sure it will. All right. Is it going to affect the time to get OPT? It is very possible that time for OPT may be extended. I would look at more of that 120 plus days just because the work processes are moving slower. Although I believe that's still considered an essential part of government, I can't be sure of that. And because of the childcare needs of people who have kids that are home right now that do not have daycare or schools, many people are having to work from home. And I can attest my own ability. There's a lot of other distractions. And so I would imagine that all paperwork going through the government is being slowed down right now. So be a little bit more patient, give it a little bit more time. All right. How likely are you going to get OPT? That is such a difficult question to answer. I can't guarantee everyone OPT, although I can say because there's no restriction on the employer for it, you're more likely to be hired on for OPT than you would be for H1B. But OPT is so dependent on employer, and it's very dependent on your different qualifications and your areas of specialty. So it's hard to say. but people get OPT all the time. I do not know the new deadline for applying for CPT right now. That will be something that you would need to talk to Office of International Programs about. They do have their presentation online, and I believe they're doing a virtual version of that so that you can get all of your questions answered. So definitely connect with the Office of International Programs to know about all of the deadlines going forward. All right. Yes, to a total of H-1B visa can be extended for a total of 9 years. Now, that being said, it's not guaranteed. So you're able to do one H-1B, then you get resubmitted into the lottery for that extension time period. And so, yes, you could potentially be working for 9 years. Again, OPT during a shutdown, I can't tell you. That is a government process. I do expect everything to take a little longer. International programs, though, may have a better idea as far as that time period that people are experiencing right now. You do have to find a job there is a window of time that you can be out of classes and still in the United States. I believe it is 30 days. Do not hold me to that. So you could technically be out of classes still in the United States, I believe, again, for 30 days before you have that job, that kind of window. And I will say, OPT starts the minute you put it on the application. So when you submit your application for OPT, you have to put down a start date, and that's when that window, the clock starts ticking. And so if you don't have a job by that start date, you might have wasted a little bit of time in there. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your start date. All right, but again, there is a window of time that you can be in the United States without working, without being a student, without OPT. Okay, restating interest in a company and position. When you restate interest in a company and a position, the key here is that you are telling the employer or the person doing the hiring that you are incredibly interested in their organization and that position. You are not telling them, did you hire anyone? You are simply saying, I have submitted my application. I wanted to inquire about your hiring timeline and where you are in that process because I'm very interested and I'd love to be able to talk to you more about it. All right, so it's that basic. Usually in an email or a phone call is ideal there. All right, usually better for F1 visa holders. Okay. For master's graduates or just PhD? That's a very good question. It depends on the position. All right, so PhD, if you're looking at in academia as a faculty or research position, your PhDs will always do you better. However, if you're looking at staff positions at a university, master's degree is typically all that's required. So don't feel like you have to necessarily have a PhD to work at a university. It's fully dependent on the type of position. I didn't mention this to you, and I will make sure that this is an important piece of CPT and OPT. Those are going to be granted per level of education. So if you are here for your bachelor's degree, you could have one CPT during your bachelor's degree, one OPT after your bachelor's degree, and then you go for your master's. You could then have a CPT during your master's and an OPT after your master's. And then let's say you go for your PhD, a CPT and an OPT. Now it doesn't culminate. So if you came here for a bachelor's and went directly to your master's, went directly to a PhD, or any level between, you don't get to stack them and take like 3 OPTs all at once after your PhD. All right, so I hope that makes sense. But yes, it just depends on the type of role in academia. All right, yes, you most definitely can ask for non-H1B sponsoring companies to sponsor you if they've never done it before. You have the option of staying out of pocket. I don't encourage it. It's not incredibly ethical for companies to make you pay to work for them. And so I wouldn't even offer it. I would just simply say, I'm happy to connect you to the resources you need to make this seamless. But I don't ever recommend you offer to pay an organization or pay fees for an organization to pay for you. All right. Summer jobs and internships, yes, you need CPT or OPT to do summer jobs and internships. The only jobs you can work in the United States without CPT or OPT for pay are going to be on-campus positions, and that means they have to be paid for by the university. So even places like Chick-fil-A or Starbucks you can't work for because that's not the university paying your paycheck. All right, so make sure that you are being within your legal means of using your CPT effectively and legally. All right, let's see, got a few more here. OPT opens for someone graduating in summer 2020. OPT, if you're graduating in summer 2020, you want to apply for it 90 to 120 days before that. So get on it. Again, you'll need to go through international programs to understand the process. And then when you apply for it, it will go through the US government. I can't say how long that process will take right now, but the application process is through the government, and you will need 90 to 120 days to do that. And let's see. You will have to set a start date on your application, so make sure that you're very liberal in your start date so that you're not wasting any of that time once it's been granted. Yes, definitely have questions that are legal for them to ask you during a interview. Always happy to fill you guys in on that. And legal questions are very important. If you ever see one of our interview presentations, we always have a list of those questions. All right, let's see. Extending graduation. You may be able to cancel your OPT. You'll want to contact the government agency in order to do that. I'm not sure if you can cancel that application at this point. So talk to international programs. I'm sure they could definitely tell you who you need to speak to inquire about that if you are wanting to cancel your OPT application to extend your graduation. Yes, today's video will be recorded. It'll be up on our YouTube, and we'll make sure that it gets posted on our social media. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can stay up to date on all sorts of fun stuff, including a lot of tutorials. All right, let's see. Sorry, my chat feature keeps on going back in time. All right. Is it authorized to be on CPT in another US state while continuing graduate research on campus remotely? Yes, you can do CPT while you're on campus doing things. Yes, that shouldn't be an issue. You'll have to work it out with your supervisor on how well that will look, but that shouldn't be a problem for you. All right, I'm enrolled as a PhD student, but I will get my master's along the way. So is this possible to get the OPT for master's and still be enrolled as a PhD student, or get the OPT for PhD later? All right, so I believe when you were doing, and I could be wrong on this, so talk to international programs about the intricacies of this. But I believe if you are in classes for your PhD, like starting on that process, you may have foregone your OPT for your master's, but I could be wrong on that. So talk to international programs and see how that could work on. You will not be able to combine the two OPTs later. And so find out if you might want to take off a semester to do that OPT or whatnot in between the two, and then get that OPT for your PhD later on. All right. I think I got everybody's questions. If I did miss you, I apologize. Feel free to shoot me an email if I missed you. And again, this will be recorded. All of the different resources we talked about today are available on Handshake and the University Career Center's website and the student page, including an entire section under the specialized assistance part of the job search. You'll see links to things like Going Global. There's also a visajobs.com links to that and international programs, and including a link of all the embassies that are in the United States all on that page as well. If you have specific questions or need specific help with all of this, remember to make an appointment with one of our staff. We are thrilled to help you, and we want to make sure that everybody is feeling prepared and successful when you graduate. Again, my name is Addye Buckley-Burnell. I appreciate your time today, and I wish you all luck. For those of you who are graduating this weekend, congratulations. I know without the ceremony, it's not as much fun, but you guys have been working hard, and definitely a reason to be proud. Have a great day, everyone, and be sure to follow us on social media to stay up to date on all sorts of fun stuff. Bye, guys.